Well, hi guys. Today you are joining me at the prolific Alders Farm Fishery. We're out doing some product testing, but while we're here we've done a video, and what we've done is we're going to run you through just some little things that we do this time of year of trying to get the best out of your peg. And it's 10 degrees today. We had 2 degrees overnight last night. It's gone a little bit cold. It's quite clear, and so we're going to run you through a few methods that you can do to try and get the best out of your peg when fishing can be quite hard. We'll run you through some rigs, the shotting patterns, and obviously the gear that we're using. Lovely carp this time of year. They're all thankful, light elastics. Oh. Oh. And a lovely carp on the pole. Let's hold that up for you. Superb. So we're 3 hours into the session now, and I've been priming these pole lines. Now I've had a look on these lines, however, certain times of day you expect the carp to feed. It's now 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've been priming these lines as I've said. Now I've had a look on these lines already, both at 14.5 metres. The left hand side of my swim, I've fed ground bait and pinkies. I've had a look on that, I've had an odd skimmer. But where I've loose fed maggots to my right, I've caught most of my skimmers. So the fish were telling me they didn't want a better ground bait today, because where I put the ground bait, I've hardly had a bite. Where I've loose fed maggots to my right is where I've had most of my skimmers. Now, it's that time of day. I've had a look on this line, as I said earlier on in the day, and all I've caught is skimmers. Now, I had some nice skimmers, sort of 8-ounce skimmers. There are lots of skimmers in Alders Farm now. It used to be predominantly carp, but there's a good head of little skimmers here now that gives people bites through the winter. But them fish have told me they prefer loose fed maggots today rather than putting some bait down. So that's their way of telling me they prefer to be fed today by loose feeding. The last 3 fish have been carp. It's that time of day, but you need to prime that swim, that area, to get it to produce later on in the day. There's always a feeding window on the commercials. There'll always be a time when the fish feed properly, but when I say properly, it is cold. Have I mentioned that it's cold? It's that time of year. It's end of January, beginning of February. The fish haven't really woken up yet, but I'm trying to get the best out of my swim by having 4 different lines. We started on the feeder, as I expected, just because the fish are quite dormant. You're not going to catch hundreds and hundreds of pounds. The water's too cold. We've got a temperature of about 8 degrees today. It was 1 degree overnight. Slight frost this morning when we got here. But the water's really clear. There isn't any point me fishing on a really short line because I don't think I'll get bites there. Comfortable, 14.5 metres, well away from the bank. I've just dinked maggots all day. As I said, I'm starting to get a few carp on this line now, which I expected later on in the day. And it's coming up trumps. We had some nice skimmers early on, and now I can't get a bite off a skimmer, but I bet my next fish will be a skimmer. Can't get a bite off a skimmer, and now I'm catching some carp on this pole line. Now my setup's on the pole today. I'm fishing quite light, 4x14s, F1 maggot, 013 main line, 011 hook length to an 18. Single or double maggot, and I've got it strung out with number 10 stots. I'm going through the water this time of year. It's not like the fish are stirring the bottom up and I'm catching loads and loads of carp. These fish are in your peg. There's too many fish in this venue to not be any fish in your peg. But it's my job to try and encourage the fish to feed. And if the more natural I can make my bait look, the best chance I've got of tricking one of them fish to sucking in a single maggot. As I said, I've been dinking maggots over the top. I've got a really light rig on, strung out shotting pattern, and I'm laying about 2 inches on the bottom. Float dotted right down, because sometimes the bites this time of year are just the slightest little dink. But that's the bite, as it sucks a single maggot in and spits it back out again. Lifting and dropping is crucial as well this time of year. The fish are there. I can see some bubbles in my swim now. You know, it's flat calm here. I can see every bubble that pops up. But my float is dotted right down so I can see every indication on that float. There's some bubbles coming up again. I think I'm going to catch another carp in a moment. I've got a feeling there's some there. I'm not catching any skimmers anymore, which is telling me that the carp are in my peg. I'm just going to keep lifting and dropping. As I said, it's a really light rig. Obviously, because of the light rig, there's no point having a really light rig and light lines, which I consider light lines this time of year for this sort of venue that's got lots of carp in. I mean, the carp go up to 10 pound in here, but lots of the fish are between 3 and 5 pound. So I can't fish too light. I need to be fishing. 0.13 is about as low as I'll go as a main line. I mean, when it's been really cold on this venue before, I've fished 0.10 hook lengths, small hooks, just to catch skimmers when you know you're not really going to catch any carp. But this time of year the carp are quite dormant. If you catch one, it's not going to pull your arm off. It's not like salmon, they're not like torpedoes. You know, you will get them in. Concentrate on getting the fish in rather than to get them in quickly. It's more important to get the fish in. I'm fishing a 5 to 8 elastic, very soft. So if I catch a skimmer, I catch a skimmer. If I catch a carp, I'll just hook it gently. And I've got a carp on now, and it'll just run out of me peg, not aggressively. I'm not trying to pull its head off, just gently easing it out of me peg. They're not massive fish, but they're not going to pull your arm off this time of year. Just be sensible, try and get every fish in. I'm fishing light lines. Let's just gently let the fish do the work. Hopefully we'll get this fish in. Elastic's doing the work here. It's nice and soft. The fish is still probably 11 metres out. I'm nearly back to my top kit. I've got 5 to 8 through 2 sections with a side puller. Nice and gently. As I said, let the elastic work for you. Such great fishing when you can fish nice light lines, soft elastics for carp. It's great fun. It really is great fun. Fish are 3 and 4 pound a time. As I said, in summer you'd be fishing 13s and 15s elastics. You know, it becomes a fishing race. But this time of year it's not. Concentrating, whatever fish you hook, concentrate and get them in. Cracking fish, let's have a look. Oh, lovely. I mean, it's such great fun on light gear. You know, there's a time and a place for fish. Look at that, cracking fish, cracking common. In fact, I'll see if I can hold him up for you. Funny, this time of year, that little tiny size, oh look, size 18 hook in there, little tiny hook, single mag. I'll just put that down. See if I can hold the fish up for you. It's cracking fish. He's got to be, I would say, close to 5 pounds. Look at that, cracking fish, beautiful. Nice light lines, small hooks, single maggot, brilliant. Mwah! Good girl. Let's put you in the net. Well, I've gone back out there again. 30 seconds later the float's buried. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this one in, guys, hopefully, fingers crossed, and I'm going to quickly run you through what I did at the start on the feeder. So it's now 3.5 hours into the session and it's carp o'clock on that pole line. I've primed that pole line all day, dinked maggots over it all day. When the carp move in, it'll be carp a chuck, and it's been that. I've probably had 7 in 7 chucks now on this pole line. As I said, fishing really light gear, it's great fun. But once I get this in, hopefully, have I mentioned how cold it is? Get this in, hopefully. I mean, look at this, it's lovely soft elastic. Look how much that elastic's pulling out. It's such good fun on light gear. We'll run through my feeder gear, what I'm using, how I started my session, whereabouts I'm fishing out there, because it's, you know, there's 2 islands there. Just run you through my thoughts of how I've approached my feeder lines. Hopefully we'll get this in. Oh, she's fighting quite hard. Lovely. No rush, just take your time. Make sure they go in the bag. There we go. And lovely, lovely little Alders Farm carp. Beautiful, single maggot. There we go. Beautiful. Right, let's put them in the bag. And I'll run you through my feeder setup. So we'll go on to what I did at the start of the session. And I'll run you through my setup. So what I'm just going to chuck this out. So what I've got on here, 24 gram embed feeder. Now I've got 2 islands in front of me. So how I've started is, I've had a line with an embed to my left, and my plan was maggot feeder set up slightly to my right, 4 or 5 metres apart. And it's very important because the fish move this time of year. They do get spooked. As I said, the water's quite clear. So you need to give yourself a couple of options. So I'm just going to sink my line here and I'll let you know my setup. So my rod today is one of the new Parabolics Pros in an SUV version 10 foot. Fantastic bit of kit, soon be available to all you Parabolics fans. Special things about this rod: large line guides, so you don't get the line touching the rod when you cast. It's got a lot more power through the blank than the original SUV. 24 gram embed feeder, 5,500. It's a big reel, 5,500. But when you're having to play carp and you think you're going to catch a few, having a little tiny reel sometimes, I'm not holding the rod like I'm fishing a waggler, so I can get away with a bigger reel. I'm fishing a 5.5 on here. I'm chucking to the island, which I would say would probably 35 metres, 40 metres at a push. And we've caught some carp. Yeah, we have caught some carp. But it's really important to realise that sometimes it doesn't work just keep chucking down the same hole all the time. I'm using the same process with the feeder as what I am with the pole. I'm giving myself 2 options. Left hand side of the island, I've fished with micro pellets. To the middle of the island, I was going to fish a maggot feeder, but to be fair, I've had a quick chuck with the embed feeder to my right hand side and I've caught on that there. So rather than chuck the maggot feeder and chuck the embed feeder, what I've done throughout the day is I've chopped and changed with my baits. I was fishing with the Sonia Baits micro wafters, 4 mils with pellets. So I've started on pellets on the left hand side, and then throughout the day I've chopped and changed my baits. And the funny thing is, though I haven't fished a maggot feeder, I didn't feel I needed to fish a maggot feeder because I was catching enough carp. I felt as if I had to keep chopping and changing my baits, so I did. And it's worked out that fishing to the middle of the islands, I definitely had more bites with a bunch of maggots. when I've chucked to the left hand side of the island, I got a quicker bite using a wafter. But then again, I had to keep changing the colour of the wafter. So you can't just rest on your laurels. You've got to keep chopping and changing what you're doing. If you keep casting, you might start the session like I did today on a fluoro pink 4mm wafter, and I caught 4 fish in 4 chucks quite quickly, and then I couldn't get a bite. So then I changed to a yellow wafter and caught 2 fish really quickly. But I felt that because I changed the colour of the wafter, that caught me 2 fish. Then I couldn't get a bite. So then I felt like I'd spooked the fish on the left hand side. I started casting to the middle of the island, and I've started on a yellow wafter, caught one straight away, couldn't get one. Went back to a pink wafter, caught 3 in 3 chucks on the middle of the island. Couldn't get a bite for 10-15 minutes. Come back in, chucked to the left of the island, caught 2 fish really quickly. And all it was is that the fish were telling me that they didn't want to congregate in one space. They're quite happily moving around. They do spook easy this time of year. So 2 things that I've learnt today from that, and the fish have told me. They want a variation. They don't want to be taking the same bait all the time. I've also added ground bait to me pellets for the 3rd and 4th hour. And that's got me bites. I felt that the pellets at the start was perfect, but then when bites started to tail off, I started to change what I was doing. And that's really important this time of year. Don't ever rest on your laurels. Like now, I'm fishing the feeder now. I've come off the pole to chat to you about my feeder fishing, but I'm still going to keep dinking maggots on that pole line, because I'm going to go back on there very shortly, because I feel that the carp are there on that pole line. Whereas the carp were over by the island at the start of the session, now I'm getting no indication whatsoever by the island. But I've cast it back out so we can chat about how I've started it at the start of the session. But I'm not getting no indications on that feeder line now. I feel now, as the days moved on, the fish have moved from the island coming towards me. Like we all know, a lot of carp menus do, especially in summer. You don't catch down the margin at the start, but you'll catch later on in the day, because the fish will naturally come towards you later on in the day. This clear water, as I've mentioned already, the fish won't come very close. They might do as the light fades, and that's why I fished at 14.5 metres on the pole. I didn't bother fishing any shorter. Had a slight indication then. Oh, and there we go. Look at that. Perfect for the camera. Now that was a 24 gram end bed on there, and that's got micros and ground bait. My ground bait today is Sonia Baits Method Mixed Dark. Funny thing is, I've actually caught a bream on that line out there as well, about £2, which is really funny. Been great fishing, but today was all about trying to get the best out your peg. And just, if you go with the idea that you think all you're going to do is just fish a feeder on one line all day, and it's going to keep going around all day, yeah, you might do, but you need to give yourself a little bit of variation, like I've done today. 2 lines, and they might only be 5 metres apart, but the fish spook so easy this time of year. Let the fish tell you what they want to feed on. If you make variations to what you're feeding and how you're feeding, started with just pellets in the feeder, great at the start, then I felt that the pellets wasn't quite pulling the fish in. Changed me wafter colour 2 or 3 times, and now I've ended up fishing on 3 live maggots on my end bed. Crazy. Didn't feel the need to, as I said, didn't feel the need to go on the maggot feeder, because I was getting enough bites on an end bed. Chopped and changed what I'm putting on the end bed. Went from pellets to pellets and ground bait. Sometimes pushing the pellets or the pellets and ground bait in hard into the feeder, sometimes just pushing it in loosely. It's down to us as an angler to chop and change. Just little things that you think won't make any difference can make a massive difference. Just by casting slightly to the left, then casting 5 or 6 metres to the right if you've got enough room on your peg. As if you've got an island in front of you, or you've got a bare bank in front of you, like a lot of commercials. I've got islands, but you might be fishing against a bare bank. Don't be afraid to put 2 lines in, especially this time of year. Summer, they'll be swimming, they'll be crazy, they'll be active, they'll come to you. But this time of year, you might be 5 metres from a pocket of fish. You catch 2 or 3 fish on one little pocket of fish and they back off. It's so, F1s are very well known for it. You might catch F1s at 13 metres, can't get a bite, move 4 metres to your right and get a fish to chuck. F1s are like that, and it's the same with carp. Always give yourself an option. Well, commercial fishing's all about timing. I went back out on the feeder, guys, to have a quick chat about what we were using and how we started the session. But it is definitely pole o'clock. I didn't have another bite on that feeder, but I feel now is the time. The light, it's that time of year, light starts to go, and it's definitely time to get on that pole, on that line I've primed all day. The carp now, the light's going a little bit, the carp are quite happy to come in a little bit closer. Maybe for the feather margin line now, I might have had an odd bite on it. But it's taken them fish, them carp on this long line, 3.5 hours to come in onto this line. They just moved away from any noise. And this is the time they've come in to feed on this pole line. So hopefully, it's not prolific. I'm not going in and getting a bite on the drop or anything like that. I'm having to wait for bites. But the fish are there, and lifting them, dropping, trying to encourage them fish, irritate them is the word I'm going to use, irritate them fish into feeding. Just nice light rig, lowering that in gently. I'll put my teeth back in, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, lower that in gently. Float dotted down. Luckily the conditions are perfect today, it's flat calm. Well, flat calm where we're sitting, a little bit of ripple on the other side of the lake. Just a case of lifting and dropping. There's definitely fish there. I keep seeing odd bubbles come up. Hopefully we can catch another fish to end the session. Now, many of you might have noticed, obviously, I'm using white top kits. Personally, it's a personal thing. Doesn't make any difference. Light coloured top kits, grey top kits. Does it make any difference? Who knows? Some people swear by them, some people don't. But I always look by the fact is, does it affect my fishing? No. Could it give me an edge in different light conditions? Possibly. It's too much of a coincidence that some of the top anglers in this country fish with light grey or white top kits. So that's for the jury to decide. I like using white top kits because I can't see it makes any difference to my catch rate. Does it improve it? I don't know. But that's up for everybody else to decide. It certainly doesn't stop me catching fish, that's for sure. And that's the way I look at it. Oh, and there we go. Hopefully we'll get this in, and that's another carp to hopefully wrap up this session. He's looking a bit angry, this one. But as I mentioned earlier, nice light elastic. Let the fish run out of my peg. As less disturbance as possible. I'm just gently putting a little bit of side strain to pull the fish out of my peg. Well, it just goes to show, if you get your timings right, feel your way into your fishing. You know, the worst thing you could possibly do is go gun-ho halfway through because you haven't caught anything. Them fish are there, they're just not feeding at that time. On these heavily stocked venues, that fish are always there. You just got to prime it and get them to feed and be fishing at the right time. It's no coincidence the best anglers in the country catch more fish than a lot of others, and they're just confident in their timings. Oh, this fish is going crazy. They're confident in their timings, and timing is paramount. on commercials this time of year. We've all done it, we've all sat next to anglers, think, oh, they've caught nothing, and in the last hour they absolutely destroy you because they've got their timings right. They've not gone silly, they've not thought after 3 hours I'm going to pile loads of bait in. They've just taken their time, plodded along, primed their swims, knowing that the fish, to give themselves the best chance of catching, is to just keep priming them lines till later on in the day. Because once that light starts to go, it becomes fish o'clock. And it's not the biggest of carp, but as I like to call them, little twisters, they do fight. And when they get your head up, there we go, lovely. And there we have a lovely common, about £3 to finish the day. If I can hold him up for you, get the hook out. I'm not going to drop that bait hook in down the edge because I know what can happen here at Alders Farm. And there we go, guys. What a cracking day, carp and day we've had here at Alders Farm. Now guys, don't forget to subscribe to the Map Fishing YouTube channel. There's lots of videos on there, not just from me, but from other consultants at the Map team. Take care guys, and I'll see you on the bank sometime. Bye for now.